Hey guys, welcome back to The Art of Craftsmanship. My name's Dustin, and today in the shop we are going to be doing some blacksmithing, some forging. So my brother's father-in-law asked me if I could make him some wall-mounted hangers for some guns that he has. He has some historic guns that he wants to hang up in his office, so he wanted to hang them with some nice forged hanger hooks. So I'm going to show you guys how to do that. I've made a couple. So it's a fairly simple project. I'm just going to walk you through the steps of how we could kind of draw out the point, hot cut it, and round over the end so that you get an actual hook that you can hang onto the wall. So it's a fun project, fairly simple for a beginner blacksmith like myself, something you guys will be able to do if you want to kind of just dabble a little bit in blacksmithing and doing some forging. So it should be fun. Let's get started. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and light up the forge. This is my little bucket forge that I built a couple years ago, maybe 7 or 8 years ago when I first started doing heat treating with knives. This has worked really well. It's a little forge that's used plaster of Paris and sand in a 1-to-1 mixture for the refractory. And then I just have an entry on the side. I just use a standard kind of propane torch attached to my propane tank. And this has worked really well. It's done everything I needed to up to this point. But that being said, I did just order 2 new burners. So they just came in, and I'm gonna go ahead and we'll build that forge as well. And stay tuned for that, because that's gonna be a new video we're gonna do as well. So we'll be building the new forge. This little forge is serving me well, but it's time to move on to a bigger forge and do some more blacksmithing stuff in new videos. So keep an eye out for that. So I'll be using mild steel today, and this is a new thing for me because as a knife maker I always use hardenable steel. So I'm using mild steel. This is 3/4 inch by 3/16 inch thick, and it just works well for any type of forging you need to do. Since this does not have to be hardened, it's just for wall hanging hangers. Should work well. Use the mild steel. So the first step is drawing this out to a point. All right, so I'll go ahead and put that back in the heat, and we'll come back out and just make sure this is all straight and even for the second. So with this next heat, I'm gonna pull it out. I'm gonna straighten up and just refine that point again, make sure the whole point is straight and even, because then I'm gonna use my chisel and I'm gonna mark the middle about 2 inches. I'll do a chiseled line along 2 inches of the middle of that point, which then I'll put back in for heat, and then I'll hot cut that into 2 different points on the end. So I have my 2 inches here. My hardy hole is 1 inch wide, and then I just drew it a 2nd inch so I know about how far to start. So I'm gonna put chisel in the middle, give it a single hit. So just start marking it, and then I'll use the front tip of my chisel, put it right in the middle, and then tip it back and line it up with my existing mark. And do the same thing, keep walking up to the tip. So I'll use that chisel line that I just cut to split the tip of the point with the hot cut tool after my next heat. In this step, I'm using the horn of the anvil to take those two split tips and bend them both in the opposite direction, so that way I form a hook, just a decorative 2 hooks at the top. And then I use a piece of 3/4 inch bar stock in the hardy hole to kind of finesse those hooks to make sure they're nice and even and rounded. And then just flattening out the whole bar as well to make sure that the back of the hook, where it's gonna sit against the wall, is nice and flat, and the hooks are in line as well. I'm going to go ahead and quench this now, and then I will mark the steel at 11 inches to cut off so we can work on the other end, on the hook side. So I marked this at 11 inches from the very top of the hooks, and we'll cut this off on the metal bandsaw. So I'm going to get this one back into the forge now, and we'll heat up the far end to start the curl. And so now that you have one started and I've cut off the metal for my second one, I'm going to get my second one in as well. And that way I can start my second hook in between heats. So I'll be able to work on 2 things at the same time. Now, if I was doing a bunch of these like I was working on the other day, I'd be able to keep this process going after I start the first one, put a second one in, and go back and forth. That way, there's no downtime. You don't have to wait for the steel to heat back up. So it works pretty well on that kind of, if you're working on multiple projects at the same time. Our next step is putting the scroll on the end of the hook. Now you want to make sure that you put your scroll the right direction, so it's got to be facing away, rolling away from the front of the hook at this point, because once you bend the whole hook backwards, then it'll be facing back to the front. All right, we'll get this back in the forge for the next heat, and then I'll pull out my second one and start the point on the second one. The last step in the process is to actually form the hook at the end. So I'll work on that. I'll just round that over on the horn and get it so that way I have a 2-inch gap between the scroll and the back, which will be plenty of room to hold any standard rifle or gun. I have my 2-inch mark on here as well, so I'm going to refer back to that. Make sure I keep it straight. Make sure my tongs stay on well. There we go. So like I said, it's a fairly simple process. Just a few steps to come out with a really nice looking hook. I'm going to take this now, put it back in the forge and warm it back up. Get it into a black heat, and then we'll do a boiled linseed oil finish. All right, this one's all finished, so now we'll just work on the second one. So I'm going to mark down 3/8 of an inch from the beginning of our split. So 1, 2, 3. Make a mark in the center. And I'll go 1 inch down from there for my second mark. All right, guys, well, thank you so much for watching. This has been a fun project, a nice, easy thing for you to do as a beginner blacksmith like I am. Just kind of, gets you those skills built up to be able to do better and bigger things when forging. So it was fun. I really like the way these turned out, the nice dark finish on them with the boiled linseed oil and the nice hooks. They're pretty even, pretty straight. They should work out pretty well. I'm gonna put some felt inside these to line them a little bit, just so that way they're a little bit softer on the guns that are actually going to be hanging on them. It's been a fun time. We hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you did, make sure you don't forget to give us that thumbs up and comment. Also subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet so you can see more videos in the future. And follow us on Instagram at The Art of Craftsmanship. There you can see pictures of what we're working on all the time. So this has been a really fun day, a fun project in the shop. We hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you guys on the next one.